Okay, coach, coming off a 1-1 weekend against New Hampshire. We're jumping out of conference play for the Connecticut Ice tournament this weekend. First game starting off the tournament is UConn versus Sacred Heart. At the XL Center. Just want to get your thoughts heading into the weekend for the tournament.
Well, first and foremost, we're really excited for the tournament. I've been lobbying for a while that this tournament be played at the XL Center. I think it's the best venue in the state to play the tournament, especially now that we have our own rink and Sacred Heart has their own rink. It's more of a neutral site for everybody, and from what I'm hearing right now, there's 5,000 to anywhere from 5,000 to 6,000 tickets that could be out already for Friday night, which would be the largest attendance I think we've ever had for the tournament. And I'm hoping the walk-up brings it to about 7,000 or 8,000. And then hopefully we can do that again for the finals. And, we make this a permanent home for the tournament because I think it needs a permanent home. And the proximity for all our schools is pretty much right in the middle almost for all our schools. I'm excited to see what the tournament brings this weekend at the XL Center.
Awesome. All right, we'll go ahead and open up for questions. Randy, you want to start us off?
Thank you, Colin. Coach, how are you?
I'm great, Randy. Yourself?
Very good. Really looking forward to this weekend. I know you mentioned your excitement and the team's excitement. I wondered for the in-state kids, the kids that grew up playing here in Connecticut, what the sense you get from them in particular is having this opportunity to play in front of family and friends for something that seems to be catching on over the last couple of years.
Yeah, I think it'll be great. I think it's probably not as special yet, Randy. I think kids that are 10 or 11 and in 6 or 7 years, kids that have maybe gone to the tournament every year, it'll be a little more special. It's still relatively new, where I think this is only really the 4th year of the tournament because we didn't play it during COVID. So, but nonetheless, there's some in-state pride, and I'm sure it's a little extra special for them.
And your thoughts generally, this is the 4th year of the tournament. You've seen it evolve from a neutral site to the on-campus. You just referenced, this being the in the middle of the state venue. How have you liked the progression of the tournament from your personal perspective?
Well, if it stays at the XL, I'll really like it. I just think when we're playing on neutral sites, whether it's here at Toscano or down at Sacred Heart or at Quinnipiac, we're limiting ourselves. Those buildings only hold 3 to 4, and maybe Sacred Heart has 4,000. And, my question is, why would we limit ourselves? Why would we limit a championship game to 4,000 people when it could possibly get 8,000 to 10,000 people at the XL Center? So that's where I think the tournament needs to be played. And that's why I think it needs to be played year in and year out at the XL Center.
Thank you.
Dom, we'll go ahead and jump over to you.
Hey, Cav.
Dom, how are you?
Good. Kev, I know you're not going to look past the first game. I'm not asking you that. But what big picture, what is it do you think it has done and can do for hockey in the state to have the national champion here at this tournament and to have a national champion in Connecticut?
I think it's done great. I mean, it was just 10 years ago, Yale was a national champion, and Quinnipiac has had a strong program. And I believe Sacred Heart and UConn have also built pretty strong programs, as evidenced by us, investing in new buildings, Dom. So I think that hockey's only growing in this state. And yes, I mean, we're not really focused on Quinnipiac. We're focused on Sacred Heart. We've had our hands full with them for a number of years. CJ is I respect him as much as anybody in this business. He continually builds a strong program down at Sacred Heart. They play fast. They play physical. It's going to be, a hard fought battle Friday afternoon.
Joe, we'll jump over to you.
Thanks, Colin. Hey, Cav, how are you?
Great, Joe. Yourself?
Good, thanks. If he plays both games this weekend, Harrison becomes the school's all-time leader in games played. Can you just talk about his improvement from freshman year to now?
Yeah, it was interesting. He was a kid that, came and he's always been an intelligent, smart player. But physically, he really needed to work on his body and, build a frame and get strength to the point where he could compete night in and night out in this league. And to his credit, he spent a lot of summers here with Mo Butler. And not only that, Joe, his overall maturity is off the charts. Like he's one of our captains for a reason. And he's really, has command of our locker room as a captain. So it's been a joy and it's been fun to coach him, and super appreciative that he could have gone to a lot of places to play a fifth year. And the fact that he chose to stay here is something that, I'll always be appreciative of.
And as of right now, do you think you have Jake Flynn for the weekend?
I'm not sure. He is going to try to skate today in practice. So hopefully we'll have a better feel after today's practice.
Thank you.
Yep.
Dan, we'll jump over to you.
I think it was right around last year when last year's tournament, it seemed like you already had a pretty good sense that this year's was going to be at the XL Center. So has there been a discussion about where next year will be, or is it just a wait and see after this year?
Yeah, I don't think anything's been solidified. I think it would probably be, I think for this tournament to really take off and take on a life of its own, like the Bean Pot, we need to probably have some type of committee that runs it, very similar to the Bean Pot, that can be representation from every school, but there also has to be like a committee that, is not necessarily biased towards one school or another. It's what's best for the tournament and what's best to grow it in this state. And hopefully we can get to that point at some time.
Adam, we'll jump over to you.
Afternoon, Coach. Hope you're doing well. So obviously you mentioned at the beginning of the press conference, the attendance numbers supposed to get a lot of people coming down to the XL Center. Since you've gotten to UConn, how have you seen the culture of the hockey program shift in terms of fan engagement and just like the winning culture and what you're trying to build throughout the next couple of years?
Well, I mean, our first year in Hockey East, I think we led the league in attendance. So it's really been a passionate fan base since the moment I've got here. Our tickets are sold out here on campus. When they go on sale or when they become available for our students, they pretty much go in the first 15 minutes to a half hour. There's a rabid fan base here. There's a very strong hockey culture that dates all the way back to when the Whalers were here. And there's been great players in the state for a long time. Brian Leach and Craig Janney and Nick Bonino. And the list goes on and on of really good high-end hockey players who have won Stanley Cups, Jonathan Quick. So it's been a great hockey state for a long time. And I think it's our duty and our job to keep growing it.
Bob, we'll go back to you.
Hey, Mike, what makes Sacred Heart's power play so good?
They move the puck really well. They've been good for a while. They move the puck well. They shoot it well. They get to the net. It's not a perimeter power play. So, we're going to have to really be dialed in. One, as I say pretty much every week, it's not a recipe for success if we're taking 5 or 6 penalties in that game. You can kill 3, sometimes 4, But you start creeping up after that, good power plays are going to get you. So we got to play very disciplined, and we've got to play when we do have to kill penalties, we have to get 200-foot clears. Can't get stuck on the ice for a long time because they're going to get it to the net. And, they're very good at that. So we're going to have to play extremely disciplined on Friday.
Thanks, Mike.
Dan, we'll go back to you.
Now that you're starting to get a rotation of who you're playing in that first round, it's not Yale every year anymore. Right. Do you see yourself scheduling, like, say, Sacred Heart so that you can go play down in their rink and they can come up and play in Toscano the year that you might not meet them in the opening round, or same with Yale or even Quinnipiac?
Yeah, well, CJ and I had definitely talked about that. That's something that we would like to do for sure. And we were doing that every year, and then it just seemed, it gets tricky, Dan, because they only have 7 non-league games, and I believe Yale only has 7 non-league games. Quinnipiac has 10. No, they might have 12, come to think of it. So it might be easier to schedule something like that with Quinnipiac. But it gets tricky with non-league schedules sometimes. But I certainly am never opposed to playing the in-state teams, even if it's not in the tournament.
Go ahead, Randy.
Yeah, you haven't seen Sacred Heart in a while, and obviously you see them on film, but they do have several Hockey East transfers. Are you familiar with, like, Liam Isaac and Mikey Adamson, some of those guys that you may have played against before?
Sure. I think TJ Walsh leads their team in scoring, I believe, and he was at Northeastern. So he's a very talented player. And Liam Isaac played an important role for Boston College last year. So, yeah, I'm familiar with a few of their players for sure. But I think I'm more concerned with their team as a whole. They can come at you in waves. As I said, they have great team speed, and they play physical, and they play fast. So, we're going to have to be really sharp.
Thank you.
Adam, go ahead.
So, obviously this program's had a lot of great players. Obviously a great representative of the university in the NHL is Tage Thompson, one of the top rising stars in the NHL. What was he like when you coached him, and just how have you seen his game kind of develop in the NHL, and what do you think he learned at UConn that translated into the big leagues?
I think he'd probably be a better person to ask about what he learned. But I certainly enjoyed coaching him. He was, a kid that, I say Matty Wood is a kind of a similar type player where they're big, tall, right shots that can really shoot the puck. But Tage had a lot of other attributes. He was a smart player, and he actually grew when he left here. I think he grew an inch or two when he left here. So he's really, matured into a top 10 player in the NHL. And, if you had asked me if he would be that when he was here, I'd be lying if I said yes. I thought he might be a top 10 player, but I thought for sure he was going to have a long NHL career. But he's turned into a bona fide superstar, and we're certainly really proud of him, and I'm happy for him.
All right, Dom, you'll end things off for us.
Yeah, played for the last shot.
I love it.
Yeah. Cav, you got a lot of games behind you. You also have a lot of games still in front of you. Where do you feel like your team is? What gives you some confidence that the best hockey's in front of you?
Well, what gives me confidence is, we've played against our league is as strong as it's ever been. When we played toe-to-toe with Boston College on the road, we played toe-to-toe with them here. Mm-hmm. And they're the #1 team in the country. We played, 5 out of 6 periods against Maine, who's a top 5 or 10 team in the country. We shut them out for 5 or 6 periods. We went toe-to-toe with New Hampshire, who's a top 15 team in the country. We've got Providence coming up. UMass, we tied on the road. So you're asking me what gives me confidence is I know we can play with all of these teams. And with the season we have, we're right around 500. You know, we're still 21st in the pairwise. Like, we've played a lot of good teams and we've got a lot of great teams in front of us. So in a lot of ways, we can control our own destiny going forward. But I think, Dom, I have a great leadership group with our not only our captains but seniors that have been here and played a lot of hockey here. You know, with Chase Bradley, who's played a lot of hockey here, that are not afraid of the big moment. That they've played in a Hockey East championship game. I think that they've done an excellent job of letting our players know that our best hockey still in front of us, and we're comfortable playing in these big games. So if I had a bunch of freshmen and sophomores, I might not feel as confident, but having a senior class and a leadership group like we have and gives me a lot of confidence.
All right, guys, joining us on the Zoom is Chase Bradley forward, head of CTI. So we're just going to open up for questions. Joe, you want to start us off?
Thanks, Chase, thanks for joining us. As a kid from outside the area, can you talk a little bit about what Connecticut Ice has been like for you playing against the 3 other state schools?
It's been pretty cool. I feel like every team we play has been great. It's a good competition, and it's an exciting tournament.
How do you explain the way the season's gone? Your highs have been so high as a team, and your lows have been a little bit on the low side. Can you put your finger on the inconsistency at all?
I wouldn't say one thing. I just think we got to stick to our game plan every game. We have plans going in to every single game, and sometimes pucks, you don't get the bounces that you want. Like, we haven't found the back of the net some games. I don't think that's our issue. But I think just sticking with it and just being able to go out there and play our brand of hockey and try to get wins out of it. I think that's really important for us.
Thank you.
Randy, we'll jump over to you.
Thanks, Chase. Randy Brochu. Glad to see you here on the Zoom. What's the sense you get in the locker room from the guys playing in a tournament like this, and specifically want to ask you about an in-season, during the regular season tournament, playing for a trophy, and how that can maybe help prepare you for the Hockey East playoffs in about a month.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's like playoff hockey, right? Like middle of the season playoff hockey. I don't think it gets any better. Great teams in the tournament, so it's very exciting, and hope maybe get a trophy in the middle of the season, boost your confidence. So yeah.
Chase, individually, your production has gone up every year you've been here. You're on pace to surpass your point totals from a very good season last year. What do you attribute to that?
I don't think much has changed with me. I think I've been playing the same style of hockey since I've gotten here. Confidence is definitely huge in that. Once you get a couple, they kind of start rolling in, and then just being able to play my game and play like for my teammates next to me, it's exciting for me.
Final one for me. You grinded it out Sunday against the tough UNH team. What does it say about your team to bounce back for the second straight weekend against a tough Hockey East foe?
It just shows our character. Like, we go up 2-0, let one in. It's happened to us before, but we kind of just stuck with it. We got a huge block from Jake Percival. Arsini played amazing. I thought it was a great team effort on Sunday, and it was really good to get that win.
Thank you.
Yep.
Dan, we'll go over to you.
Your freshman year, you guys had almost an identical record at this point in the calendar. Do you see any similarities between the way this season's gone and that season? And do you think you could maybe find that same success down the stretch as you did back then?
Yeah, I think so. They're definitely very similar teams that I've been a part of both, obviously. It's exciting because, I mean, there's definitely challenges ahead of us, but I think that's when we got better at the end of my freshman years, when we faced these challenges and we learned from the things in the past, and you learn and then you try to advance in playoffs. So
Adam, we'll jump over to you.
Thank you, Chase, for joining us. So obviously UConn plays in a very tough, one of the toughest, if not the toughest conference in college hockey and Hockey East. You have so many great opponents like BC, BU, Maine, other teams. How much do you enjoy the competitiveness of the conference, and how do you prepare each night for what seems to be a dogfight for 60 minutes every game?
it's definitely fun. Like playing some of these teams, they all kind of have different styles. More offensive than last year, I would say, this conference is. So it's kind of like finding your team's game and like sticking with your game plan, not really falling into other teams' traps and like playing to their game. Kind of just sticking with what our identity as a team. And yeah.
Bob, go ahead.
Chase, what have you seen in our Arsenis game? He hadn't started for 2 months, and the last 2 times out, he's basically pitched shutouts. And basically, I don't know if saving the season's the right way to describe it, but after 2 really tough losses, the way he's played to help you guys rebound, what's that been like to see him just work on his game so much and put in the work that he's put in to see the results that he's gotten?
It's awesome to see. Like, obviously not playing for 2 months is tough, but I think he learned and like took it as a grain of salt, kind of just stuck with his game plan. Like, he knew he's a good goalie. You see him come to work every day, no matter what. And then on top of that, like Hyder and Matt Pasquale, like they push him each day. Like all of our goalies have been great this whole year. So it's really cool to see.
And Chase, to see what Joey, Ryan, and Tristan have done with that line. I mean, the first game of the BC series, that's when the light bulb went off for those guys. What can you say about their development over the last couple of months?
That's also another thing that's awesome to see. They definitely made huge steps from last year, and they kind of stepped into this huge role, and they're playing it perfectly, I think. I mean, they just grind teams down. They're really solid defensively. They're creating scoring chances on the offensive side of the puck. So it's cool to see, and I think they're going to stick with it.
Thanks.
Go ahead, Joe.
Thanks. Chase, have you always been a physical player? Is that something that's come on as of late, or have you always liked to play the physical style?
I love it. I don't think it's fun to play against personally. Like, I don't like getting hit. So I kind of think of that when I go out there. Like, if I don't want to get hit, that guy probably doesn't. So it's always been a part of my game, and I think I'm going to keep it going.
Thanks.
Randy, we'll go ahead and end it with you.
Yeah, one last one. You know, you've had some big goals through your time at UConn, the empty netter at BU a couple of years ago in the playoffs, some overtime goals last year. Is there a certain place you go in the third period or overtime when, you know, the game's on the line, you got an opportunity to score a memorable goal?
I don't think it's anything crazy like that. I think I try to play the same way through the first to the third, even overtime. I guess I like shooting the puck. So if I get pucks on net, maybe one will go in every once in a while. So that's kind of my thought going into the game.